August the 19th, 2020. Guys, you're looking at the 5-day graphical outlook from the National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida. And we have 3 lined up here. Tropical disturbance number 1 has an 80% chance of formation within 5 days. Now, I'm going to switch this over in just a moment and show you the 2-day forecast, but I just want to go into what we're dealing with over the next few days. Got an 80% chance there, with disturbance number 2 a 90% chance, and you got a 40% chance with the new system that's off of Africa. Now, this is switching back. This is the 2-day forecast, and that's important too, depending on where you're at in the islands out here, guys. But disturbance number 1, even in the 2-day forecast, is 70% chance of development. Disturbance number 2, even in, again, 2-day period, is 90% chance of development. And this is a 10% chance here in the yellow X of the disturbance number 3. But over the 5-day period, remember that changes to 40. And let's take a look at number 1 again. 2-day forecast, 70% chance of formation in 48 hours. This was at just about an hour ago at 8 p.m. Eastern. Tropical wave and an accompanying broad area of low pressure is producing a concentrated area of showers and thunderstorms over the central Caribbean Sea. The system is gradually becoming better organized, and a tropical depression is likely to form in a couple of days when the system reaches the northwest Caribbean Sea. This has been the forecast the entire time. You'll have a couple of rough days forming because it was moving at 20 miles an hour to the west. It was stripping itself back, but now it's slowing down, and it is starting to strengthen. That's what they've been saying, so they were right on this. This low-pressure area is moving westward, and interest in Honduras and the Yucatan Peninsula should closely monitor its progress regardless of development. This disturbance will likely produce heavy rains across a large portion of Central America and southeastern Mexico late this week and this weekend. And our second storm here, again, 8 p.m. update, satellite images indicate, we're going to look at those, that the low-pressure system located about 850 miles east of the Windward Islands is gradually becoming better defined. In addition, the associated showers and thunderstorms are showing signs of organization, and a tropical depression could be forming. The system is expected to move generally west-northwestward at 15 to 20 miles an hour. Interest in the northern Leeward Islands should closely monitor its progress, as tropical storm watches could be required as early as this evening. Again, 90-day chance of development in both the 2- and 4-day forecast. And guys, as you watch this, as the sun goes down and we're switching from visual to infrared satellite images, notice the reason this system, number 2, is getting a 90% chance of development. Look at this thing, how big it is. But remember, 2 days ago, we talked about it, and that was going to combine with another low-pressure system, remember? And that would make it bigger and stronger. That's what we're seeing. This system, number 1, is into the Caribbean now, starting to slow. We'll look at it a little closer on the Caribbean satellite. And you can see rotation starting to form at the surface level, below these storm clouds. Third system coming off of Africa. Guys, the Earth is extremely hot, not because of global warming, but because the shields are weak because of grand solar minimum. This is not looking real good, regardless if this is a Florida strike on the second storm or it comes into the Gulf of Mexico, and we're going to look at those models. It's not good because this thing is cranking up. It is hurricane season, and it has been hot. This week in Mississippi, in central Mississippi, we've had a break. Our temperatures in the upper 90s, but we haven't been in the heat index above 100 in the last 3 or 4 days. For a while there, we were 105, 106, 110, things like that. And it really becomes unbearable. But it's not because of global warming. The globe is warming, but it has nothing to do with man. It has to do with the solar cycles. And you have them again every 11.8 years that matches the orbit of the sun's binary twin, Jupiter. And when that happens, you go from as it gets as close to the sun, then you're in the peak of solar maximum. As it gets way out in orbit, you're in solar minimum. But then these cycles progress downward and then upward, and we're going downward in each 11.8-year cycle. And in other words, the peak is less each cycle, and that's why our shields are so weak. And it's in these events that you can have super cold winters that develop into what's known as years without a summer, massive crop failure. But right now we're going to pay attention to these storms, guys. Second storm looks very dangerous to me. And we'll see. They're saying everything's becoming conducive, and notice it's not dealing with a lot of wind shear right now. The Saharan dust cloud, it's clearing it out of the way some of these stronger storms do. They control the weather around them. But this is reflective of the heat, the earth releasing the heat, designed this way. So guys, be prepared. Let's look at some of the spaghetti models. This was also updated at 8 p.m. This is coming from down in Florida at Sky Tower. It's called myfoxhurricane.com. And we've got models kind of all over the place. The Canadian model comes crosses Yucatan into the northern Bay of Campeche. Then they've got it turning with a south dip. Now, this is going to change over the next few days. You got about half the models pulling it up into the northern Gulf, into somewhere between Louisiana and the Florida Panhandle. And you've got 3 of these going from Houston down into Mexico. Now, the Navy model is not in this particular spaghetti model yet. NavGem is not, even though they're listed here. But they are modeling it in the animated models. We'll look at those, but first let's look at the spaghetti models on investment 98L or disturbance number 2. And here you have the Navy model, you have the Canadian model, and many other models. And guys, I won't say never, but a lot of times when you're this far out into the Atlantic, you'll have some of the models turning up into the North Atlantic, recurving, some of them going further south, down towards Mexico, kind of spread out all over the place. But because the conditions are becoming more conducive, notice how they are all very close together even at this point. So pay attention. This brings everything up between possibly Louisiana and Florida Panhandle here. 2 storms could come into the same area over a matter of days. Now notice what the Navy has done here. Just as it was on the spaghetti models, they have not animated the first storm, but they have the second storm. They're concentrating on that. I'm sure that they will do that in the next few days, but this is, again, pretty much where a lot of the models are bringing it. This is bringing the storm as it stops on August the 27th, just off the Louisiana coast near the mouth of the Mississippi River, right there. Now, we know this is going to vary back and forth. But the last storm, or the storm Isaias, their first model was the most accurate, even though it waved back and forth. But it's that time of year that we get these devastating storms in the Gulf of Mexico and on the East Coast. Now, this is the Canadian model. It's showing both storms. And if you remember, a few moments ago, they showed, saw the CMC model bring its line up and then curve south, and that's exactly how they've got this model. Now behind it, disturbance number 2 is here. We're going through August 24th here, the 25th. It cuts across southern Florida, slams into somewhere around Mobile and that area generally. Michael looked like it was coming into Gulfport, but it turned and it wiped out a lot of folks down in the Florida Panhandle, guys. Wiped out a lot of property and things like that. A lot of people lost everything they had, and they haven't rebuilt a lot of it. But again, look at the timestamp in the bottom right. With August 24th, it's come across Florida. We've seen this happen before. And by the 26th and the 27th, it's starting to bear down very heavily. So today's the 19th. You've got a week to prepare. Now, that's on the second storm, but notice they're both coming ashore at very much the same time, regardless of where the CMC model is at this point. We will see if that holds up. Again, it's that time of the year, guys. Start preparing. Prepare to evac. First of all, start contacting friends and family north of you, and make sure that you can handle that, or if you can, get a motel room or whatever. Don't stay right in the path if this thing is doing what it looks like it's going to do. It's so hot, and that's when the worst ones are. But prepare for that. If you're not sure you're going to have to evac, make sure you have at least a backup generator or something for power. Solar is better because you don't have to try to use fuel trying to go find fuel. But for a few days you can handle that. But water, clean water. That's why for years we've sold water filtration. #1 in the world, Alexa appear on our website. And we've had My Patriot Supply foods. For years, a lot of people, as we talked about solar, I noticed in the comments, guys, it's so expensive now. The price has really come down, but it's taken me about 3 years in buying parts of it at a time. And my solar panels have never been exposed. But what I'm saying is everything's ready to go when I have to have it. I don't need it being wore out yet, but I've got the inside completely wired in, and today for the first time actually installed all the batteries. Waited on that, and just those were the last purchases. And fired up the system, the big Ames inverter. It's going to be amazing, guys, even without my panels, because that inverter has a built-in battery charger. The batteries are now at charge, and I have 2 or 3 days of power from just the batteries. Okay, 600 amp batteries running 24-volt inverter, and I can run 1 or 2 5,000 BTU air conditioners, a small fridge, and your lights, TVs, fans, things like that. So you can make it. But what my point again is this: I know it's expensive, but that's why I've been talking about it so long. And a lot of you guys have listened and prepared, and there's solar people that have bugged out for 10 or 15 years ago and were ready with their campers and all. But even regardless of what you do, you prepare to be without anything. You're going to be on your own if you get into a Katrina situation like New Orleans saw and we saw, and like Michael saw, and we've seen it all over. But I mentioned the ones that I was personally involved in because I know what the hell was going on then. 2 weeks, no water, no power, nowhere to shop, nowhere to get gas for your generators because they were closed. There was no electricity for the pumps or for the cash registers. And that can happen again. I hope that this thing is much smaller or turns and goes away. It's doing its cooling thing in the ocean now. But it's always best to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Never forget that. It's a heads up. Be safe.